Let's just face it, reading can be difficult. It takes a lot of mental energy and discipline to set aside the time to push everything out, to sit down and look at words on a page for a really long time. I think it's a healthy discipline. I think it's a valuable discipline. And I think it's probably good for your brain to be able to singularly focus and block out a lot of other things. Like, I think there are advantages to reading, but let's just face it. I'd say that for most people, it's not the ideal situation most of the time. But there are so many awesome things to be gathered from books, not just like useful life information, business information, historical information, but of course, the reason that I'm here today, story information. It can be wonderful to experience the stories that can be created in the book realm, and it can be really time consuming, especially when competing with like time consuming, dopamine firing quick things like social media, television, movies, etc. One of my goals on the channel here is to just make reading sound as exciting to other people who don't do it as it is for me, someone who loves to read. And one of the most amazing tools for doing that is the audiobook. Audiobooks have existed for a really long time. I remember my dad getting them occasionally from the library way back in the day, but it usually involved getting like a set of tapes or CDs that was fairly wieldy, and then you had to have some way to play it. But guess what? The digital revolution happened, and now it's extremely easy to listen to songs or podcasts or books pretty much anywhere stupid easily. If you are someone that wants to read more or experience books more, but you don't have the ability or the time to sit around and do that, I highly recommend checking out audiobooks. And today, most of this video is going to be focusing on the two major subscription audiobook platforms, but I want to throw this out there real quick before I get there, just so everyone is aware. I don't know how much non-readers think about libraries these days, but if you're someone who wants to try to get into reading, but you're not sure how to do that, I suggest going to your local library, getting a library card, and then downloading the app called Libby on whatever smart device that you have. Most libraries that I know participate in the Libby program, and you can input the information from your library card into the Libby app, and you can get access to ebooks and audiobooks for free, at least in the continental US, though I think there might be similar programs for other places in the world. I'm dead serious. It doesn't take any money. It doesn't take that much time. Check out Libby if you want to get into audiobooks and you don't want to spend a lot of money, or maybe you don't have a lot of money to spend freely. I don't know if you've tried to fill up your gas tank lately. Now let's talk about the two big players here. Evidently, the company Audible has existed since 1995, but I don't know anyone that was talking about or using the service back then. But I do remember in the mid-2000s when podcasting really started affecting my life that I started hearing ads for Audible. Audible's main business back then is still kind of what it is now, which is that approximately for $15 a month, you can become an Audible member, and every single month you get one free credit to use on any audiobook that you would like to. Additionally, once you are an Audible member, you get 30% off every single audiobook on the audiobook library there. Considering that the regular price, even for digital audiobooks, is between $30 and $50 depending on the book, this seems like a pretty good deal, and it seems like one of those things where, hey, if you want to incorporate more reading into your life, you can read one book a month for $15 a month. That's honestly a super reasonable price by pretty much any measurable standard. Audible, because it's owned by Amazon, is incorporated into like one of the biggest, closest things to monopoly that exists in the world. So many books are on Amazon, and it's become almost ubiquitous today to have audiobooks for pretty much all of those books. Even a lot of self-published authors have audiobooks for their books if they gain any measure of success. One of the huge advantages that Audible has is that because it is tied into Amazon, they were smart enough to include a feature called Whisper Sync. And what Whisper Sync allows you to do is, if you own the digital version of a book, the ebook, which you can either read on your Kindle or your smart device, or you can just read on a PC on a web page, your progress in the book is synced with the cloud under your account. And if you were to listen to that book on another device, or even pick up an e-reader and try to read that same book, and you own both the ebook and the audiobook, it will sync your progress, and you can super easily switch back and forth between the two. There are some huge books that I've gotten through in crazy amounts of time on this channel, and that's because I had both the audio and ebook version of the same book, and I could listen to the story when I was driving or when I was doing something where I had to use my hands or whatever, and then when I had time to read, I could switch back to reading the ebook and my progress would be synced. It allows you to really get through books extremely quickly, and you may be wondering why someone would buy the book twice, because it could be pretty pricey. Well, something that Amazon tends to do is their ebooks are not super expensive, and usually, this is not in every case, but in many cases, if you buy the ebook of something on Amazon, you get an extreme discount on the audiobook, whether you're an Audible member or not. Most of the time, I'm not actively subscribed to Audible unless they do some really good promotional deal, but I still own a ton of audiobooks on Audible because since I'm primarily an ebook reader, if I buy an ebook, it's usually only $7 or $8 to add the audiobook onto that purchase. So oftentimes for less than $20 when I'm picking up a new book, I will walk out with both the ebook version and the audiobook version, and I can do all that syncing stuff I talked about earlier. This is something that Amazon doesn't talk about, but I try to use every opportunity I can to talk about this because frequently when books go on sale, like The Way of Kings for $3, you can get The Way of Kings for $3, get the audiobook with it for $7. Having spent $10, you will have the ebook and the audiobook for The Way of Kings, a 45-hour book, my favorite book of all time, by the way. This level of interoperability between those two services and the fact that a lot of times you can get good deals on Audible memberships, on ebooks, it's a huge advantage that Amazon has when they're doing this. The thing is that it's owned by Amazon, and Amazon is a company that a lot of people love to hate. So let's talk about what I see as Amazon's best competitor right now in the audiobook market. Full disclosure here, I am technically an influencer for Librofm. I'm going to give all of my honest opinions here. What the influencer program for Librofm entails is every single month there's a selected group of, I want to say 8 to 10 books that if you're part of the influencer program, you get for free in the hopes that you will talk about it and promote their service. I do my best to try to do that if I'm listening to something on Librofm, but it's not going to tarnish what I have to say here today about the differences between the two services. One of Librofm's really big selling points on the anti-Amazon spectrum is Amazon and the digital book market really did a number on brick and mortar bookstores. Librofm seems to want to be a competitor in the audiobook space, but also be able to support local bookstores. So what Librofm does is if you decide to create a membership on Librofm, it's the same price as Amazon, pretty much $15 a month. You then select a local bookstore from bookstores that I suppose can sign up for this program on Librofm's website. And when you buy a membership on Librofm or when you purchase books individually on Librofm, some portion of your purchase goes towards your local bookstore as well. The way that it's described on the Librofm website is it says that it splits the cost. They have things that say when you buy holiday gift memberships, it literally is half the money that you spend on the membership goes to the local bookstore. I don't know if that's universally true, but either way, it seems like some cut of the purchase does go to the local bookstore of your choosing. When you spend money on Librofm, they want to help support local bookstores. As far as the listening of the audiobooks goes, there's an app available on all smart devices that I've seen, and this app has seen a lot of upgrades in the couple years that I've been using this service off and on, but the app functions honestly pretty similar to Audible for the most part. You can see your library of books, you can download them while you're on Wi-Fi to listen to them offline if you'd like, you can speed them up, you can set sleep timers. It's pretty much just a good audiobook player. In my experience, a lot of times the titling of the tracks is not as good as it is on Amazon, but if you're not trying to read the book from more than one source, it doesn't really matter all that much, which is to say if you want those syncability features that Amazon offers, they're not available on Librofm. So you do lose a little bit of functionality on that end. But, and this is a huge, crazy pro-consumer, anti-regular what's going on move. When you buy a book on Librofm, you can obtain a DRM-free copy of that book. There's going to be a significant portion of people that are listening to this video right now that don't know and don't care what that is. But when you buy a book on Audible, you have a digital license for that book that you can use to access via your Audible account, but it's not like you actually own that book. If Amazon were to suddenly disappear, which I don't see happening anytime soon, but if it were, that book is gone. There's no guarantee that you'll have that book forever. Additionally, if you wanted to do something with that audiobook, like, I don't know, burn it to a CD, there's absolutely no possible way for you to do that because you don't actually own a copy of that book. But if you purchase a book on Librofm, you can download the actual just straight up audio files for that book and do whatever the heck you want with them. That is incredibly rare in a digital content age, and it's incredibly pro-consumer in a way that's just unparalleled. Speaking of things that are pro-consumer on the Librofm side, if you have credits on Librofm and you decide to cancel your membership, you've already paid for those credits, they stay on your account until you use them. If you were to cancel an Audible membership with active credits on your account, if you do not use those credits before your membership expires, they'll just get rid of them. There is no logical reason for this, and it's incredibly stupid and kind of a jerk move to people that have already paid you for something to take away the thing they paid for. But like, this is Amazon we're talking about. Librofm doesn't do that. Another thing worth noting is that the Librofm audiobook library store is not as big as the Amazon store. Amazon has a self-publishing platform, so their library is obviously going to be way bigger, but as Librofm continues to rise and people start to understand that it seems to have more goodwill towards the consumer at this point, and also towards local bookstores at this point, it's incredibly rare for me not to be able to find a book that I care about on Librofm. For the most part, both of these products are just super easy to use. They're super plug and play as far as the term goes. Like, they're easy to pick up. Anybody can do it. On the surface, they're very similarly priced, though because of the Amazon eco-structure, it is technically more value friendly to use the Amazon service because of all the crazy deals that happen. There's also technically more books there. But if you're willing to spend a little bit extra to try to support a company that seems to care more about you and care more about your local bookstore, Librofm has a lot of really cool features. Now, all those being said, I want to change the subject a little bit. We're still talking about audiobooks. Audiobooks, because they are extremely long compared to music, can have some pretty huge file sizes. Sound quality is something that matters to people a lot differently depending on who they are and how much they care. A lot of people may not care about sound quality, but if you do care about sound quality, just listen in. Because audiobooks can be so long, the default sound quality when you download a book on Audible and probably on Librofm as well is pretty low. I don't know if you've ever noticed that when you're listening to an audiobook, the compression is pretty crazy and it doesn't sound very good. And when they incorporate musical elements into the track, it's kind of awful. Did you know that there's actually a setting you can change in Audible to download the high quality versions of your audiobooks so they sound way clearer and nicer? I had no idea. And you know how many hours I've spent listening to audiobooks on Audible? I'm not sure if Librofm has this functionality in the app, but I have a Plex server where I like to take a lot of the media that I own and store it locally on my own server so I have a digital copy that I can do with as I will. And I was taking all of the Librofm audiobooks that I own, downloading them and putting them on that Plex server, and the downloaded files for the audiobooks were in the higher quality. It was literally immediate when I hit play. When I started listening to one of those audiobooks, it was insane how much better it sounded with the high quality audiobook file. I know this doesn't bother a lot of people, so maybe they don't care, but I still suggest trying it because it's extremely apparent when you start listening to one of these high quality files how clear, it's crazy how clear it sounds. It's just, it's so much better of an experience if you care about that kind of thing, and you might find yourself caring about that sort of thing if you actually listen to a good one. Anyway, I highly recommend getting into audiobooks if you're not a reader, or if you are a reader who doesn't use them. I love them. They're freaking crazy useful. They allow you to experience the stories that are in books in a whole new way. They allow you to experience books when you otherwise might not have been able to. For certain books, they may be the preferable way to get the book. I would definitely say this about the Dresden Files. If you haven't tried listening to audiobooks before, give this a shot. I tried to give you an honest overview of both Audible and Librofm. Honestly, I own tons of books on both of those services. I highly recommend whichever one sounds best for you. I can't tell you which one to choose. I'm not your dad, but I am your best friend. Goodbye.
Sleep, no one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. If it don't show up, I might get fired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired.